Dua, dua, dua. Good afternoon, good day, everyone. Boa tarde, boa noite, bom dia. Dua, everybody, brothers and sisters, matondo, matondo. Mais uma vez estamos aqui para continuar, né? E hoje eu quero começar, começando essa explanation about the Umbanda. Sim, very important. I think it is one of we in Umbanda we say when you think for the ancestors you say ponto. This is a pont, but in reality, it is in Candomblé they say the cantigas. There's a kind of songs, and but in Umbanda we say the pont of Umbanda. And today I'm going to try to say a little bit on point, really close to my heart. Is um plano for mestiço, for mestiços, plano for caboclo. Yeah, I love him much. I really like. Cai, dende, quero ver cair, cai, dende, teu caboclo, cai, dende. Dende, Deus para a virgem, cai, dende. Dende, Deus caboqueara, cai, dende. Dende, quero ver cair, cai, dende. Dende, Deus para a virgem, cai, dende. Dende, Deus para o rato, cai, dende. Dende caboqueara, cai, dende quero bariboia, cai, dende Deus caboclua, cai, dende Deus que vai cair, cai, dende Deus caboclo, cai, dende. Dende, quero ver cair, cai, dende. Dende, te cabaramanda, cai, dende. Dende, quero ver cair, cai, dende. Dende, te caboclo olha, cai, dende. Dende, te seu bacoro, cai, dende. Dende, te caboclo iriu, cai, dende, que tomara virgem, cai, dende, del cabacafo, se cai, dende, que tomara anda, cai, dende, quero ver cair, cai, dende. I can't do. But for me, it's very important to start with the mestiços because I think it's now it goes a little bit deeper now. And in Umbanda, in Brazilian culture, the mestiços is the owner of the land. They are the people of the land. They are the real Brazilians. And that is very important to always will ownership our ancestors, our ancestors, our caboclos, our mestiços. And when we see this point, the drop, dende is a kind of the same the bells you do in Africa. The people do for palm oil or palm wine. That's made for palm oil is that is a kind of the terminology that is being very bound to is being very introduced inside the Umbanda. When we see the kai, we ask them to come. This is an invocation sounds. When you have this on the caboclo rituals, and normally in the very places, this is one of the sounds is really we invoke. We call the names for they can come. They are inviting because they want to see them, they want to see them, and then you get a lot of people get possessed with different types of mestiços, different kind of caboclos. But this is the invocation sounds, and today I think I start with invocation of the mestiços, the caboclos, because this is the one, the owner of the lands. They is one of our ancestors, my ancestors, and they is the one who's going to give more clarity to what is going on here. So the caboclos, give us the full understanding, the clarity, and the knowledge, and the ears for everyone to hear and understand what I'm trying to say. So going back, that is in the previous what should I say, the video I made about it to summarize the seven line, the lineage of Umbanda. I don't want to say lines, because lineage, that's correct term, etymology. That is I started now explain a little bit deeper about the Umbanda of the glorified orishas. Umbanda, there's the people that initiating orishas, a different cult, it's a Yoruba cult, it's a Yoruba. They have that's not only Yoruba, that's not correct. It's a candomblé that is have a different branches. You have the Angola candomblé of Angola, candomblé Angolas and Souls, candomblé of Quito, candomblé of different nations. But the different candomblé you get a lot of information in literatures. I think they're a little bit more, what should I say, um, more well explained to be honest, because a lot of people, especially from US and Europe, went straight to candomblé. And even though sometimes I can see a lot of candomblé also mestizos, they don't understand the summarizing books related to episodes of candomblé. Was fun fascinated. This mix the candomblé de orisha, the candomblé de caboclo. What are the means? I have imagine if you have the babalawo or you have the yal orisha, the ya, okay, the candomblé, ishfa, whatever the culture is, okay, the corner code African religion, and then these guys they normally depend of the region Brazil, especially in the south of Brazil, Rio de Janeiro, São Paulo, Belo Horizonte. Those places, a lot of the oldest Babalaos, so they have also the ancestors. If they ownership the ancestors, the caboclos, you see a lot candomblé of caboclos because one day they go to take the Kota de Chás, put it apart, is celebrated on the day that day for the ancestors. The same thing they have for for the entities like the Exu, Pombo Gira, the hot spirits. The exact is the same because they are the guardians ones. So they have these guys. And they have one day they stop at the candomblé and the ceremony they do for the orishas. They do for the entities of Exu, Pombo Gira, or sometimes they go for Caboclo or so on. But this is something separated. This is ritual separated than the orisha. Different things. But sometimes I see a lot of people like to make a cake on it. Everything's orisha, everything's a candomblé, like no, it's everybody has their own place. Everybody their own space. Nothing is mixed. It's order, always order. When you talk about spirituality, especially inside of Brazil, even if it looks like everything's a mess and mix, whatever. No, when you are in, you know the order, you know the hierarchy, you know how it works, you know the chronology, you know how things works. Everything is in place in order. So that's why everything that's all the lineage of the thoughts is different compared to others because sometimes they do things slightly differently, but doesn't go along, too far from each other. But only the etymology, the language, and how they conserve the culture itself is likely different, but on the other hand, is the thing. So let's start with Zombanda and White Umbanda and the Manda. This is White Umbanda and the Manda. You talk about the upper class of the empire in Brazil at that time when they start. These people, they is really like they have this philosophy that is anything else. White is beautiful, is wonderful. Anything black is demonic. So they have to be combat them, just terminate them, eliminate them, whatever. That's how the mentality is. But when I say about it, I talk about the court, the empire mentality wise. Because if you know the stories of Brazil, Rio de Janeiro was built for to be the second Paris. The Petite Epoque was they want to be France in the tropics. They really choose Rio de Janeiro for that. That's why I see a lot of the architectonic, especially in Rio, the buildings and majority is French. It's like as a Portuguese thing, but the majority is a French architecture there. It's very, very strong on this. So, as I told you before, it is also named White Umbanda, and the Manda is also named Alabanda, Umbanda of White Line and the Manda, the traditional Umbanda that we see. A Umbanda also is the white tablecloth. White tablecloth, when you say that, is in Portuguese it says mesa branca, is Cardecis mentality. And Umbanda Caritas, for they do like the charities for people, and there's one more devoted for charities itself, and Umbanda offered mestiços that offer seven cross, is the Umbanda of Zélio Fernandino de Moraes. The originates was is this the branch was founded by the now I go to talking about who's the spiritual leader, the chiefdom, because it is now you have to understand all the seven lines work as a chiefdom, okay? And this chiefdom you have the one spiritual leader, and that spiritual leader is normally is the medium that has one spiritual guide. This spiritual guide is the one to coordinate that shrine. I think this happening everywhere and around the world. It's the same thing that happens in Brazil, especially in Umbanda. And that one specific entity, they develop all the spiritual coordination, all the spiritual practicing, how you be done, who be done about it, everything like this. So let's go back now. And this is for the Zelfina de Moraes, the entity was responsible for that was the Mestiço Seven Crossroads. We call the Caboclo das Sete Encruzilhadas. Crossroads is seven because there's seven crossroads, and you see in Umbanda you're gonna hear a lot about the seven. It's about the crossroads. You hear a lot about what should I say? Different specific names. All this name is not for nothing. They tell you something. When you are inside of the court, you know exactly the same who are talking to you. It's about they have is a kind of as you they give indication where they're coming from. They give indications what they are good at it. There's indications of what is they what they do best. Okay. And the statue is the mestizo of the seven white cross, seven crossroads, and also for the Father Antonio or Father Anthony. This is the black old man. Normally in the history of Zélio, you're gonna hear that is one black old man was trying to they get he literally get someone possessed inside of the figure Zélio, and was not allowed to speak on the card as his shrine, and then they was allowed to say to sit on the table. There's a whole stories on the line. You can translate to looking online. I don't know how to explain this because I think a little bit whatever. But anyway, I think it's important is this name of this black old man was not allowed to speak at that time. It was Father Antonio. We say Father by Antonio or Father Antonio. And Orisha Malay. Orisha Malay is another entity. A lot of some people say this is Orisha, was the manifested also in Zélio as a medium, and but there's a lot of there's no well explained, and I would enter so into this deeply as well, because like as is important. But the thing is, on the other hand, is likely. I need to go there. You literally you have like this shrine of Zélio Fernandino de Moraes is still today in São Gonçalo. Is a tent of Our Lady of Piedade. They are in São Gonçalo in Rio de Janeiro, and that is really you can visit, to be honest. And then like his name is a foundation, the foundation of the spiritist tent of Lady of Piedade. That's what it is, yeah. And going back, this was up in São Gonçalo in the 16th of 11th, 1908. The folk of the dissemination. the main focus was the aspect of spiritism, taint of Our Lady of the Piet and of the Piet, and what is all about is they have their own practices. What is being dictated, was being orientated, not dictated, but orientated by the messages of the Seven Cross. Basically, this is the basic fundamentals to organize of Umbanda. It has become throughout the whole Brazil and the world as well. From the Umbandistas people who's following the Zélio line of thoughts. Okay, and the Orishas, they are considered the Orishas the title applied to the spirits who have reached the high levels of spirituality hierarchy and which represent in the special missions, variable terms, the higher head of the line. That explained it before. And this is by the burden comparable to the generals now entrusted with the inspections of the phalanx is now charged with assisting the activities of the centers and need of support. I'm reading this because it's easier, because otherwise I'm talking too much sometimes and lost in focus, and that is not really my point. And I want, because this is a long things, and because I want to scrutinize all the seven lineage for you guys to understand a little bit more in the deeper way what is Umbanda is all about. And in case of the subordinated to the general guide of the grouping to which such centers belongs. It believes that there is 126 orishas distributed in 6 spiritual lines of work. The highest chiefs of each of the 6 lines are the names of the Nago Orisha, although they are not understood in the African traditions, and there is a strong connection to the Catholic saints. This is the line of thoughts of the taint of the Our Ladies of the Pieta for the Zélio Fernandes de Moraes. Okay, it is not for every Umbanda shrine, but this is that they line guides, that they believes, that what they are professing. And the lines of work, that's what we call about as phalanges, is considered the existence of 7 lines of work from Oxalá. Oxalá in Brazil is Obatala, outside of Brazil. So when you talk about Oxalá, you're talking about Obatala, which include the spirits who represent themselves as the children. Iemonja, Ogum, Ochosi, Chango, Iansan, Oya, and the Santos, the saints, the Catholic saints, and the souls, which includes newly disincarnation souls, the crowned Eshus, baptized Eshus, and auxiliary entities. This kind of things, the entities we go to hear a lot. They are being written about them dozen times in different ways, different forms, different shapes, but it doesn't change a lot. Only thing is kind of terminology they use it. For example, you see here is a very mental, the cardicist is a very close to the Catholic mentality wise. So the entity has to be baptized, like you see, like it's how should I say? It's very Hebrew Christian mentality, basically. And then you go to hear these terms a lot. So everything has to be baptized, everything has to be the crowded, like the kings, the queens, things like this. They are really how that works, for them, way of thoughts. So the entities, the workers are carried out mainly by the mestizos, the black old men, and the children, and are not they are not as like as how should I say, the Umbanda, the basic is, when I talk about children, is the children who's born that died early. And you go to hear a lot as well about the Ibejis and in Africa. This concept of Ibeji also end up as in Umbanda. And when you're talking about the children, you're talking about the Ibej concept of the Orisha Ibej in Africa, but it's not the same. But it's the entity. It's dead children, for example, like if someone get a miscarriage, and then they in Umbanda become the children become they called Eres, and some people call Eres, some people call Ibejada. This is the children I'm talking about. It's not the ones the Orisha. Okay, and then you have other entities also, what they call about it the cowboys, because one thing is also Umbanda was created for the marginalized society, the people as a marge of society. Was not because you said you get like is this people from the high society with their things because they become more, if you want to be the sort you are, just be like as the courtesies was the most thing at that time. Anything else was not really like as important, but there was a lot of these people was working as a cowboy, as the cattle boys, the cattle guys, and also as well as a lot of them was a lot of migration between especially south of Brazil and Bahia also, because it was a the droughts in Bahia was a very common thing. So even my grandparents, they're from my grandparents is from Bahia also. They walk all the way from Bahia to São Paulo, because normally by bus you're talking about the 24 hours. No, by bus it depends on São Paulo is about 48 for 36 hours depends on the time, and then they walk, that was very common in Brazil. You see the people on the roadway on the highway walk with families, children, going down south for a better life. This was the people who was when they died, the Umbanda absorbed this group of people, to continue. So they watch the ancestralities never die there. So we say have a ones of the entities. Later on, I'm going to explain what the entity is. But at the moment now, just to summarize a little bit. And then you have the gypsies also as well, was a kind of people in Brazil was being marginalized as a marginal society. And then you have the tricksters we called in malandro. Normally, if you remember, there is Walt Disney in the past. They use like as the parrot with like as a head white and red. This is typical of Malandro of Rio de Janeiro. Called like the guys was who's walked bohemian guys, everything like that. And this spirit is also is inside of Umbanda. And issues is also is other things as well. Issues, the name is issues because people don't explain, don't I don't see there's another name actually before that is issues, but this was a kind of spirit was manifest in Umbanda cults, and they just started manifesting. They took the name of the Orisha issue from Umbanda from Nigeria, and become entity issues and Orisha issue. So if you go to split if you go to looking deeply about the issue in the Pombogira issue, you're going to get a lot information about it as well. But also there is a lot of the issue also deal with is, the Pombogira and Aluvaya in from the Congo, the Bantu part as well. So this is also linked to that as well. I think issue is another issue. Pombogira is another book. Basically, you have to talking about something apart. When later on I go to explain as well. The ritualistic is as white clothing is the only garment worn by the mediums during the turn, and it is use of the guides, image, smoke, candles, drinks, scratch points, and the works, but the atabags of the drums are not used in the ceremonies. Why? Because there is remnants of Africa. So they took that away. They don't use drums inside like the candomblé and like Umbanda, samba. No, no, no. And that's when he recognized the line was okay. Someone said, "I'm a Umbandist," and then you talk about when he talk about this, how they express about the orishas, how they express about the kind of garments they using it. And so we know which the line is belong to, which line of thoughts is falling up. And that's one very characteristic. When you have the cardicist and shrine, you don't gonna see atabak. You don't gonna see um, drums and what in shape. Maybe now they're happening. I don't know. I'm not in Brazil, so I've been too old here in Europe, so I don't know what's happening now there. But normally, not. Okay. And the doctrinal books they use it. Usually, there's the main doctrinal sources is the Book of Spirits from the Allan Kardec, the medium books, the Gospel Accord of the Spiritism, and the Spiritism Magic, and the Seven Lines of Umbanda. This is the main of study books that people, especially from the Candice mentality or the Zelio, basically, Umbanda for the white and the demand they falling on. Okay, these are kind of books you can find in these books. The book of the spirits is a kind of the book when someone in I think Allan Kardec in France make this kind of the interview with the mediums was possessed, and then but so on. You can get this as online, and then you have the gospel according to the spirits, and the spirits of magic, and the seven lines of Umbanda. You can get this online as well, and then you're gonna see the philosophy, the mentality wise, and the practice they are doing it. Now we go for the second. It's a Umbanda card sister. It is also is well known as a black the white tablecloth, and there's a white Umbanda, and the Umbanda the characters. It's a kind of this cardicist is a cardicist the Umbanda cardicist is the three combined mentalities wise. And this is type Umbanda. It is strong influence of the cardicism. Very, 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 very. And generally, the practice of the Spiritism centers that at the beginning develops the Umbanda with a sunflower along the traditional spiritual sessions. It is the one the oldest aspects, but is not a code the dates and the initial places where it's begun to be practiced. What the focus of the disseminations, there is no main focus disseminations. I don't see if there is anything, to be honest. I don't hear anything about the line of work is not to use the groupings, the entities. That's one thing as well. The entities is the Umbanda workers, and they carry out mainly by caboclos, mainly by the black old males, the pretorians, and more or less is rarely the children of the 80s. The ritualistic is as white cloth, is the only garment worn by the mediums during the terms, and the use of the guides. Images is smoke. When talk about smoke, is tobacco. Tobacco is a very important sacred plant inside of Umbanda cult, because you have this is an indigenous culture on it. That is very important, and the tobacco is wide use and ritualistic around Brazil, throughout Brazil. Okay, and now they use cigarette as well, but the main thing is tobacco. Main thing is tobacco, and yeah, they use like as a smoke, the incense. They use the candles, drinks, and atabaks are not founded. Again, again, again. When you have this white umbanda, you understand atabak is not there. Atabak was not be there. That is the way it works. The doctrinal books they use it is to use following like the books, the main doctrinal sources like the Book of Spirit again, the Medium's book, the Gospel according to the Spirits, and the Heaven and Hell, and the Genesis. It is likely different again, okay, but it doesn't go too far from the tree basically. Now we're talking about the meeting Umbanda, the Umbanda meeting. The Umbanda meeting also is they say in the past was used as known as Umbandan, the school of life, the white Umbanda, the Umbanda of White Cross, the Umbanda of Caritas. Okay, this is Umbanda. This is a summarize of all the other Umbandas, the previous Umbanda together, and then they open up a new one. This was made was belonged one. They whatever it is, and they open up a new one. So this is another branch of Umbanda. This Umbanda meeting, the small Umbanda. Let's put it. If I translate in a human way, is small Umbanda. Meeting is small. That in indigenous language in Brazil. It was founded by the Caboclo Mirim, the Mestiço Mirim, okay? And throughout is made the medium Benjamin Gonçalves Figueiredo, that, and this is emerged in Rio de Janeiro on the 3 of March of the 1924, and was the foundation was the Mirim Espírito Tent. Tent is a very important word and Umbanda. Why? Especially spiritual in Brazil. All that if you look in the stories of Brazil, on the law of Brazil, there was a lot of discrimination. Also, the police was after anyone was practicing the black religion or African religion in Brazil. And that was very complicated. Still, like now, doesn't change a lot. But the people go inside the shrine, destroyed everything. They have the people. They have to doing all the practice of ancestors in the middle of the forests and the bushes, whatever, because they have to be hidden all the time because they really, really got done by the police all the time because it was forbidden at some point. And that's because of that, the name, even if they was doing macumba, maybe if he was doing macumba carioca, even if you are doing cabula, whatever it is, the name needs to be changed for tent. Tent was acceptable, was white, was comfortable for everyone to listen to, instead of to be terreiros or whatever name it was in the past. Okay, that is very, you see a lot, especially Rio de Janeiro is very, 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 very strong. This you see all the temples of Umbanda. You see tent, 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 tent. Tent is mean tender. We see a lot of tender. Sometimes they have the orisha in the name of the entity plus the tender, because sometimes they want to hide themselves from the police, for the attacks of the police at night or whatever time it would be for the shrine to be doing the walking or the celebration. To avoid that violence of the police, they was using the name, so it was allowed to do it. That's why a lot in Umbanda you go to hear the name tent a lot. And the continue is the main focus is aspect is the spiritism and the headquarters of the brains is the primacy of the Umbanda that was founded in 1952. And all the orishas they celebrate in the aspect they are not cult of a Catholic saints, and the orishas has been interpreted in totally different way from the African traditions. Again, you see how they are trying to push away, far away from the African tradition for the ancestrality, and then they really create a different aspect for the old orishas. Continue the names continue there as orishas, but the aspect itself, the I don't say the line is not the African line, definitely not. And the tradition is not okay. There's going back again. Okay, the orishas have been reinterpreted in totally different way from African traditions, with no connection between them. And they considers the existence of 9 orishas: Oxalá or Batala, Ogun, Oxóssi, Xangô, Obaloaie. In African, in Brazil, say Chapanã also, and Yemonja, Oxum, Yansoya, Nanan. Sometimes I say Yansoya because it's easier for people to understand who I'm talking about, because there's later on you're going to see there's not orishas has been created in Brazil for whatever reason, and but later on we're gonna get there. But I want to talk about is when I talk about the young son or young son, my son. I'm talking about the young son of the nine children, the young Snowdish of Africa. And the line of work is consistent in the existence of seven lines of work from Obatala, Yemanja, which includes Yemanja, Oshun, Yansan, Nana. Again, Nanan Boruku. When you talk Nana is a Namboruku of the one Orisha also from the the form, the people from Benin and so on. That is I have to think about it, but yeah, but that's Nana is a phone. Yeah, this is in the phone airway. Yeah. It's not like it's an Yoruba. No. But anyway, now let's go back. If that's Nana is Nana Ogun Oshosi Shango Orient, where the group of the eastern entities, and the Iofa, which is the group of old blacks and the black blacks. That is something else that is really created as well, a different terminology, but it's very important. That is Orient, this is Oriental, this is like as the East. And that when you talk about this entity from the East, this has been developed in Brazil like anybody else was leaked to Asian Euro Asiatics. Basically, that's what it is. That's what it is. But Euro Asiatics. But in reality, when my starts out, thanks to Dr. Robin Walker, I realized these Orientals we're talking about, this is really like the Swahilis. And that is for me is very bizarre again because like as this line here, the specific line of entities of the Occidentals here, the Orientals, is really linked to Mozambique, really linked to Zanzibar, being all the Bantus for the coast of and yes, this is I was really funny to see it, how the link I understand why the ancestors in Brazil, when they started the this they created this time of lines inside of Umbanda. But and then you're talking about these people because like it doesn't make sense for me. Like, okay, how can he create this if you don't want the Bantus? In that time, I don't understand it because everybody go like, "I the Chinese." It is not whatever. I'm fine with that. But also, there's now when you're talking about the academic in academia, you can trace it back in academia where is the Oriental line coming from. And then you see the contact with the India, you see the contact with the Asia, you see the contact with this. But the main point is that's the people from the Swahilis, that's the people from the Arab, the Arabia also, let's put it this way. But it's very clear to me that as I think to the Robert Walker to give him that explanation mark I had that all my lifetime. Because they see the Orientals, they get that all the gypsies, you get all the kind of the doctors, and because they'll be like, I will explain later on what they do in the Umbanda shrine, but it's very funny to see it, how they classify, all the people classify the Oriental line of Umbanda at the Oriental and where the Oriental in Africa get in. That was really, really amazing to me to see it. It was a great discovery, to be honest. Hobble Walker, well done you. Teacher, well done you. And also there was different etymology, Ioifa, Iorima, but I want to tell you later, but this is Ioifa, is for designated like as a when talk about the black old men, the black old women, in Umbanda we call the African line. They fall in African line. This African line, the black old man, the preto velhos, the pretas velhas, that's the girl was I still blood me to find the name of her because I like her video a lot. This is what is her name is a Katrina. I think it's Katrina. I have to say Katrina. That is, let me have a look a little quickly here because and then I can definitely tell you why I'm still get on that. But as when you're talking about the blacks and the Preto Velhos and Pretas Velhas in Brazil, they really talk about Yeah, this is the UEFA. That's how they classified the African line on these Umbandas. And what is important is this was the magic of Umbanda lines with the slaved people. That's where these people that it was no way to get the Umbanda lines without the preto values there, because they is the one who's literally opened for the magic. Um, preto values. Catherine. Let me see if I found it as I think it probably I don't go to find it now and name it, but uh, let's see. I think it's the black people in Brazil. Black people in Brazil. She's the one who's talking about a lot. Uh, yeah, I think she's the one a lot talking about this. The black people in Brazil. But anyway, I'm gonna find it. Anyway, they're gonna find it. And the entities, what do they do? The work are carried out mainly by the mestizos, the black old men, the children, and there's not. Okay, there's also we when you talk about the work of the entities, we call gira. Gira is the same express you have as in Ghana and Ojira. Why this is because you can see it. That's one thing as well. It's very funny to see. You see the connections between the Ashant, you know, that really go down with the Bantu, with the Arabian Brazil, and then you see how the people, like I. I still strong believer how the Jagas was from like as from the Sierra Leone, this kind of things. They got these expressions there. It brought up this to Brazil definitely because like as when I see some brothers like as especially from Ghana, we spoke about the Jida or Jida, and we use the same thing in Brazil for when we have the what should I say, the session with the ancestors, because for example, like if I go to the shrine today, we have a gira tonight, so we go to spin around, and then until the ancestors and then the spirit of God get possess you, blah blah. This is how it works basically. This name is gira. When you talk about it, the quote unquote is possessor spirits in Umbanda called gira. That was the name. And that the thing it is, there is no giras for Exus e Pombogiras, since the latter are not considered workers of Umbanda but the Kimbanda. Again, here you have the situations where on the 1924 this line of Umbanda separated what the Holy Spirit is, what Umbanda, and that's why the Kimbanda kick in, because they separated. Okay, this is the spirit of the blacks. This is the Eshui Pombogira. Why Eshui Pombogira? When you see like the Eshui Pombogira, the dove spin, and if you take items closer to where I can translate the dove spin, the Eshu, the female Eshu, and the male Eshu is because they are the ones with the people for the night. They are the one the people living on the street. They are the people for the Bohemian people. This kind of for the people, and this spirit was the same behavior, the same way of deal with the people. That's why they are closest with the winter now, because even like you see in Brazil last year, was the time the carnival, when it goes to the theme of the carnival was a shoe, his win, because it's a big thing in Brazil. Like, cause everybody now want to have a shoe. Basically, that's what it is. But is it because it's very popular? Because the closest to us is a kind of entity we can talk one. Is a brother. She's a sister. Do you understand? That's what I mean. If you go on the Umbanda, you're talking about you want to talk to sister, Pombogiras, you got to go to brother, you go to talk with Eshu. And if you go to father or the grandfather, you go to Preto Ovelio. And if you go to Caboclo, is the one the teacher. He's the old man, but he's very disciplined. That's one thing. And that is, and this Umbanda here, they are apart because they associate with the black people, they associate with the marginalized people. It's the only black people, marginalized people. But the funny thing is for me, that's when I get in because of this, they are very close when I read a lot of the jargons and when I read how they behave and the story of the Congo behavior, it's very clear, you know, the link is there. It's so because how they really like is live a bohemian life, they want to drink and this kind of thing. Like it is not only that, but the characteristic of it should the freedom of it to be who you are, whatever you are, is fine. And that is what in that time and this type of Umbanda did accept at all. It's still today, I believe. You know. Now I go to talking about which kind of is yeah ritualistic they use it. It's still the same like the white clothing with embroidering, scratch, stitch, and the only garment worn by the maiden during the turns. I mean the gira, okay, and it is what should I say? How should I say? Yeah, then the turners they still using smoke, they're using the images of Jesus Christ and the works, but the guides and the candles, drinks, atabaks. Here you get atabaks. That is then you see what is abolition before, back again here on this time. And then they have the atabaks and the other and the oh hold on atabanks are not used in the ceremony. Sorry that mistake mate. No, they don't use because this is 1994. This is still not use it. They still not use it. That's the image. They not use that is the atabanks. The ceremonies they use the terms of a tupi originally to designate to the degree of the medias of the dam. And as yeah, but it's still the really the beginning of the Umbanda. So they often yeah. That's I was silly to say that, but it's true. They don't that they do not use it, but they're more indigenous name for the mediums because they have like degrees. I think for if you there's specific names. Look online for the Umbanda mirroring. It's behind here. Do I put Umbanda mirroring somewhere there? Yeah, behind me. Anyway, behind me. And then when they consider like as Umbanda and Kimbanda, that's when this starts to become popular and important in Brazil because of this type of Umbanda kick these spirits out of the shrine. They're not allowed to manifest there. They're not allowed to be there any longer. So they created their own cult, their own ritualistic, their own religion. Basically, it starts in here. Okay, that's thinking because the prejudice of this kind of people, they get different branch, different way of continue ownership the ancestors who was more towards like the African Bantu and ancestrality. But it's mostly the heavy ones, but it's more hands-on basically. And yeah, the ritualisticals was white clothes, the embroidered scratch, stretch, and stitch because they have like their own emblem, their own logo, whatever it is. The only garment the worn by the medians during the turns. They use the smokes and the incense because sometimes we have to make the we call the incense. And they have the image of Jesus because they're very Catholic also mentality wise, and but the guides and the candles, the drinks, the tobacco, and the element is not used in ceremonies. So they have a note. The guide is only used for them to be but Indian. Okay, and the books they use it is the following. The books is the mainly like the Oke Caboclo is like as Oke is the expression of normally Amerindians religion tradition used, and we call for invocation of the mestiços. We say okay caboclo, okay is a kind of yeah, this kind of invocation we're talking about. When it deal with caboclos, they say okay caboclo, okay mestiço. This will be the same thing. And the book of spirits, the medium's book, and the gospel according to the spiritism. Again, is the same philosophy because they are come from there. Okay. Now we're talking about the popular Umbanda, the Umbanda popular. There's also the Umbanda Cruzada or the Umbanda Crossed. That's what I'm talking about here. And Umbanda Mystic. Because why? Because this philosophy was in the past. Now they cross to different line of the philosophy and line and beliefs. And then you have the two Umbandas here. This Umbanda Popular is a mix. This one is oldest, the Boest trend is a result of the urbanizations of the older houses of Macumbas again. So till then, I think this is Umbanda Popular was, let's say, 1942. The time the trends was it continues say was terreiros of macumba basically, and the macumba used other words as well was very demonized in Brazil. You can say whatever you are, but when you say the macumba, people just frozen. Look like you are son of the devil, whatever it is. But this is for that was the words used to define the black people, the Bantu people, the ritualists of the people. Anything was black was macumba, basically. And nowadays they try to say, okay, because it is also macumba is music instrument, blah blah blah. But no, macumba is ritualistic of a Bantu religion. Basically, that's what it is. If you have a African quote unquote religion, you do macumba. There's no other way. There's no one in between. All the blah blah blah. All the yap yap. There are people that are talking about it. It's difficult to no. If you are go, if there is possession type of thing to do, either apart from the condom blessings, is another story. It's to macumba. In Umbanda, it's macumba. I don't see differently. I don't see that differently. Okay. And the people are gonna say whatever they want to say. You're gonna hear a lot of this in text differently. You're gonna see a lot of things differently. But in reality, this macumba is macumba. If people who go to Umbanda, they do macumba because that is the name of the ritual. It's macumbaria. It's macumba. There's no other. There's no way. People have beautiful names right now. Put on this rainbows around this. Beautiful, good for them. But this is not how it works. People that was in the past was macumba carioca. That's why the junction of Cabula, the junction of the Cabula, what's the other one? Was it Cabula, Macumba? I forgot. Was it, hold on, let me go back again. Go back to me. Don't worry, don't go back to me. Because they have this Kalundu. Kalundu, junto Kalundu, Cabula, and then become the Macumba Carioca, because was it was Macumba, and then because in Ruby Carioca, because why was in Rio de Janeiro was mixed this, and then outside of this you get that from the Macumba Carioca you get the Umbanda, and then the Umbanda you get the Kimbanda, even so on. Anyway, that's it. Go back again. Agora é Umbanda Popular. Is one of the best urbanized the older houses, Macumbas, and there is no records of the date and the initial places where they began to be practiced. It is the most open novelties, can be compared to kept and doing the proportions wishes what some scholars of the religious identity as characteristics of the religiosity and the greater cities of the Western world today, where individuals choose as if they were in a supermarket and adopt the mystical religious practice that the best suit them, and may even associate them of two or more religions. This is the one really mixed, because that's when it starts. Okay, you create your own way to ownership your ancestors, and you just agglutinate different practices, but as long as you work, it's fine for you. And that was a more or less freedom about. That's why it becomes so popular. That's why it called popular, because there's no restrictions how you ownership your ancestors, basically. Let's continue. I'm reading because it's easy to get that way. And the focus, there's no main focus of dissemination, and the aspects nowadays it seems there's no common doctrine and within. However, the most widespread is yeah, strands in the whole country, to be honest. Everywhere in Brazil you go to see the macumba, the popular macumba. You'll be slightly different in the north, in the northeast, and in the central oest, and in the south and the southwest and the south. But it's still, when you see something go mix, it's macumba. Basically, this. The line of work, there is a versions the lines of work in respect. In the old days, the 7 lines of the works are considered from Oxalá again, or Batala, where include the children's, the Eres, or the Ibeja Ibejada, Iemanjá, where includes the Iemanjá, Oxum, and Nanã. When in this Umbanda popular, when you ownership this Orisha or Batala, you automatically is ownership Ere. If you ownership or Iemanjá, automatically you are ownership Iemanjá, Oxum, and Nanã. And if you and then you go on the Ogum, Oxóssi, Xangô, include Xangô or again Xangô e Yansan Oya. In the children and the souls, where the black spirit is. Let's stop it now.